Transmitting to you from Old Heart Radio.
Computer. Recording in progress.
So before we get started, I do have to plug something, and I normally don't do this type of shit, and it's probably the most I've been active on my Instagram in a really long time. But by the time this episode comes out, I'm assuming this episode is going to come out on Sunday, which would leave 4 more days for round 2. So for anybody that's listening, I'm in this thing called Face of Horror. And essentially, it comes down to, who can get the most votes. So I don't really have much of a social media presence, but because of, people around me that are fucking awesome, I've made it through the first round. I'm in the second round right now. There's, as of right now, there's 6 days left in the second round. And the top 15 from each group make it. And right now I'm currently 16th. So I need to move up a spot or two if I'm going to make it safe to the next round. So anyone that's listening, please go to my Instagram, FitzyD27, FITZYD27. The link's in my bio. Please, it's free to vote every day. And please, share it, pass it on. It would be very, very, very greatly appreciated. So now that that's out of the way.
Hell yeah. And what's the contest called again?
Face of Horror. And, whoever wins, it's just one of those things where, like I said, I feel like whoever wins it is probably someone that, is a heavy social media. But whoever wins it, it's a 2-night stay in Buffalo Bill's house from Silence of the Lambs. It's a meet and greet with Kane Hodder and a photo shoot in Rue Morgue magazine. And then also $13,000, which honestly, the rest of it is more enticing, obviously. And a small role in an indie horror film directed by Jim Vendiola, who's the guy that's running it. So
it's a fucking cool contest, man. Make it happen. Smash his link. You know where he said it. It's in this fucking bio. We'll keep posting about it on Old Heart too. But it's it's exciting that you made it past the first round though, and you're now in the second round.
Because the first cut was like more than half the field. So it's like the next cut, it cuts down to 15 in each group, then it cuts down to 10 in each group, then it cuts down to 5 in each group. And then the second place from each group goes to like a last chance voting round, and then they join the number 1 person from each group, and they go into the final round. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm honestly surprised that I made it this far. If I can jump up a couple spots and make it into the next round, I feel like that's where things are going to start getting really hairy. So if I can get people to go vote every day for free, the more the better. We'll see what happens.
Damn right.
But anyway,
going.
We are talking.
That's one of my favorite sound clips.
Dude, we are talking about such an interesting. And it was just like when I saw the movie, I was like, oh man, this is probably some like campy, I was not expecting like this crazy fucking Japanese movie that has some like very like, you can tell there's some like Giallo vibes. Like I got a lot of like Argento vibes from some of the kills. Like, dude, it was such a nice surprise.
Yeah, man. 1988's Evil Dead Trap. It was definitely a movie that caught me off guard, especially the ending, I will say.
The ending. Apparently there's like a second and a third one. The second one's called like Evil Dead Trap 2. I believe it's called Hideki, which is as we'll get to, the name of one of the characters. And then there's a third one. I'm not sure if the third one, but these are not to be confused with the American horror franchise, The Evil Dead, obviously.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. It's and that is what can I think as soon as somebody sees Evil Dead, they think it's somehow associated in maybe like a demonic possession kind of way or something. But
No,
this movie completely catches you off guard.
absolutely.
And you're right, like it's got some really interesting influences throughout it. You can tell. And I loved the kills in this movie. Just to preface them, I loved them. I think the blood work and stuff like that was kind of like you were talking about. You can tell it has these like Giallo homages almost. And
two of the kills, which are probably the two best kills, seriously could have came out of an Argento movie or an Italian horror movie. Like they're
yeah. And I will say this: the twist. Not to give too much away before we dig into it, but the ending, the twist on the ending, in a weird way, it reminded me of the recent movie *Malignant*.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I completely agree.
In this strange way. And I was like, I just couldn't help but wonder. I was like, I wonder if there was some sort of influence from this movie into *Malignant*. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was literally thinking that same exact thing.
Yeah.
And you never know, there could be.
It's a really interesting movie.
It is.
So it opens up. It's kind of a slow-paced movie for like this opening, I'd say. Like,
absolutely.
You get introduced to the main character Nami, who's like the host of a late night television program where she gets like viewer submission tapes and she's like the Japanese female. David Letterman. It's kind of funny. Like in the beginning, she has this it's like she's ending the show or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it's like she has this line where she goes, she's like mentions like you can't all just use sexy, or maybe you need to use sexier voices or something like that. It's like this really funny thing.
Yeah, we're led to believe that she asked for viewers to like submit videos of some sort, because she ends up coming across like you said, the broadcast ends, she gets a cup of coffee, she heads into like a sound room, and there's actually a cool shot where she like walks through the door and it looks like the camera like goes through the wall and passes all these different parts of the wall. She goes into like a sound room and picks up a manila envelope, and on the manila envelope, and this movie is obviously it's Japanese, there's subtitles, but it says, for those who can't sleep, to Nami. And she opens it up. It's a VHS tape, and she goes over and pops it into the VCR.
Yeah, man. And, it's like, it's interesting. So the tape, it kind of showcases sort of like, directions almost to, or you're following whoever's taping it to like this particular place. They show you like kind of some road signs and stuff as you're like leading to wherever it's going, and then it kind of takes this turn.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden you see this, like there's like a woman who is kind of chained up or whatever, and it's, oh my god, it's actually one of the gnarlier shots, like almost right away in the movie. There's like like somebody's toying with this woman, and next thing you know, there's like a blade that just kind of like appears and like cuts the lady's like bra off so her titties are out, and then she plunges the knife into their leg, and you see this like slow cut like upward almost like right into the flesh, and it's fucking gnarly. And then just stepping it up even further, the person behind the camera takes that blade and then just slowly pops it right into this lady's eye, and you see the like the eye burst basically, and like white viscous fluid comes out of it. Yeah. And
this is like the first of many like where I'm talking about where I got like homages to Italian cinema, because like Lucio Fulci like was a master of eye horror. there's like that particular scene in Zombie, where the woman, she like a zombie, like she's like behind a door, like a wooden door, and it splinters, and the zombie oh my god. Anyway,
it's one of those that's one of those gnarly scenes, and that's what I mean, where it's like and like it's like the pacing in that scene that you're talking about is like so intense that like it just completely it's like time, it makes the whole situation like goes, you know, even more nerve-wracking. And that's kind of what you see throughout a lot of this movie, is that like some of the pacing of this movie leads you to be a little more on edge.
True.
And when something like this happens, you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, because not only do they stab her in the eye, and like you said, like liquid pops out, but then like whoever is holding the knife starts to like slice up like up through her eye and up into her forehead. It's gnarly.
Yeah, it's grotesque.
But yeah, we seem to be watching like a snuff film.
Yeah. But it also cuts like right at the end of it. It cuts to like a shot of Nami from one of her broadcasts, and she, so she has this moment where she's like, "That's me! Holy shit!" Like this was directed at me. Like makes it even more nerve wracking. It's not just a snuff film. It's baiting her, and then that leads Nami to kind of corralling her team, for the show. And
because real quick, she has like an interaction with what I could only assume is like her boss or one of her higher ups, but he seems to think that it's like a prank, but she wants to look into get to the bottom of it and wants to go see if it's real. So that's, like you said, it leads into this scene where continue with what you were saying.
Well, yeah, she basically, like I said, she kind of gathers the team, and then they decide to basically like follow the directions that they saw in the movie and head to that destination to sort of authenticate it. They even have a mention where they're like, "What if we find a body?" And one of the other people just, is just like, "Well, then that'll make us stars, because this is like a crazy news story."
True, because it starts out as Nami, and then her three colleagues, Masako. And then there's two that have a really similar name. There's Ray and Rai. Very similar names. And then Kondo, who is a male, he comes into the room to bring one of them something. And Nami asks him if he likes horror movies, and then asks him to be the bodyguard. And he, is kind of like, well, helping you girls is always trouble. Then, like you said, the next scene... They're all piled together in a car. They pass the toll booth from the beginning of the video, and like you said, they have like a monitor in the car, and so they're watching, like you said, they're watching the video to find these landmarks, to find their way to this particular location, and they seem to come across this like giant, looks like a rundown factory of some sort, and there's like an endless amount of buildings, sheds, and stuff. So
well, and I think it's like what it ends up being is like an abandoned, it's like just, I think it's an abandoned army base, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it basically looks like this derelict like industrial like area, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's even like a sign on the gate that talks about unauthorized entry. So it is some kind of base. That's right.
Yeah, and one, like, you have this like interesting cut, like, so like on the journey there's just this brief like moment where they almost like hit a dog, and then they kind of like focus on the dog as it like runs off the road, and that's the first time you see this random character that you end up getting introduced to. But it's like this like dude in like a dark suit, and he's just like hanging out by like a tree on the side of the road, and they don't notice him.
Right,
but
you're just like, to be smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, you're just like, what the fuck is this dude doing here? Like,
right.
But yeah, so anyway, they kind of, like you said, they sort of run into that gate, and you can see that there's no authorized personnel. They end up, the gate just like, I think the lock ends up just like being unlocked, and they end up, getting in there.
Because Kondo's like, there's a bunch of chains in a lock, and he's he's like, oh, we're gonna have to find another way in, and Nami seems to just like walk up and touch the lock, and it's unlocked. So,
which is also like it's foreboding because you're just like,
absolutely,
somebody wants you there, man. Like
100%.
Oh yeah, and so
yeah. But of course, it being a horror movie, they decide to split into 3 groups.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, of course they split up here, man. Like, fucking
Nami seems to want to go off on her own, so Rei and Kondo go together, and then Raya and Masako go together, and Kondo and Rei seem to have this conversation about where it's alluded to that, like, they've have some sort of sexual relationship. Yeah, because he talks about like being essentially there's like a joke that we're led to believe that he couldn't get it up the night before.
Yeah, their conversation's basically like, listen, man, you had like whiskey dick the night before, and she calls him impotent at one point.
No, I thought. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And this basically discussed the fact that the dude just couldn't get it up the other day.
Which, hey,
it's just. I mean, dude, I've gotten whiskey dick before. It's real.
Everyone has. But you're lying. You're lying if you said you haven't. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really funny that like they threw that conversation.
It's so random, but yeah. So it kind of establishes that they're more than friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like we said, Nami's on her own. She heads into what kind of looks like and it's not the only building that looks like this, but it sort of looks like it's like a factory of some sort.
Yeah.
She seems to hear a weird noise, and she ends up coming across a bird carcass with a bunch of bugs crawling around it.
Yeah.
And she turns around to see. A door propped open, and that mysterious gentleman you're mentioning earlier standing there. We don't get his name quite yet. No,
but he's cool like as fuck, dude.
Yeah, he's smoking a cigarette again, and a sunglasses, a suit. He's like a K-pop star essentially,
dude. And it's funny because like he basically like kind of gives her this like warning, and tells her to be careful and shit. And
yeah,
and then he just walks away. He's like, be careful, stay on guard.
Yeah.
And then he just turns around with his stove and starts walking off into the wherever. But it's funny because like on top of his like all black suit and how slick he looks, this dude's just rocking some fucking sandals underneath it.
That's like, right. Yeah.
He's something, man.
He also has this line about he tells her that this isn't a playground for adults. But yeah, he kind of just like, it's super random, she kind of like turns around, gets jump scared, she asks him why he's there, and then he, like you said, he just tells her to be careful, lights up a smoke, and saunters off.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay.
Exactly. It's you don't know what to make of it, especially because like on top of that, like we said, he just seems to appear all of a sudden there. You're just like there's so it feels like they're leading you into something right away with him.
Totally.
But yeah, it's I think then it kind of follows up with which one is
Rei. It's
Rei, and also kind of you see her kind of like wandering around again through like sort of like everything's just sort of derelict and like busted up. And
this one looks more like it was like a wood shop type area. There's like vices and like wood shop tables. But yeah, derelict's a good word for it. It's like a dilapidated, run down old place, and so much so that like as she's walking through, one of the lights hanging from the ceiling falls down and shatters, and startles her.
Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of like a quick little like, jump scare almost. And then, also even for like in a weird way, like shortly after that, there's like this slow scene where she almost steps on like a snake.
Yeah.
It's just like there, and the snake like kind of like slithers up her leg a little bit, like it's gonna bite her, and then like goes away. And it's just, you know, it's all just, all these things are just slowly kind of nerve wracking, and they're just slowly building on each other. And we haven't mentioned the score yet. There's this like reoccurring song or like theme throughout all of it. That is another like almost like Argento-esque,
totally,
you know, like theme.
It's a banger. Yeah.
And yeah, dude, and it like, what's interesting is that you hear it in a variety of different situations throughout this movie. And every time you hear it, it makes you a little more unsettled, I feel like.
I completely agree. It's just so like, it's a nerve-wracking type of, you know, dread when that song comes on. Because she ends up, I think this might be one of the first instances of that. Because like we said, the snakes happens. She ends up walking backwards and like falls through a set of doors. And then in this room she's in, there's like this large cabinet dresser, and it starts to shake. You're like, oh shit, what's happening here? And she gets closer. And this whole time you're like, where the fuck's Kondo at? Like, did he really like leave her alone?
Just ditch her.
But then, you know, classic move. He pops out and he has his arms up like a universal, you know, like Bela Lugosi, or you know, just type. Like and he even has like fake vampire teeth in. And you know, she fucking pushes him over. He breaks his glasses, and then he reacts by basically telling, and this is kind of creepy. He tells her that he's feeling up today. And that he can do it, and then he starts like grabbing her and pushing her down. You know, like he's trying to fuck in this like creepy ass old rundown building.
Yeah, it's a very weird situation to want to just lay some pipe in, you know. Yeah, and so like, you know, you kind of briefly move, you know, kind of follow up with a couple other of the members, and they're, you know, taking photos of, you know, themselves.
Real quick though, I don't know if you're just about to mention this, but this is the first of it. It happens a couple times throughout the movie where there's like these really weird, it's like, and it's in black and white when it happens, but there's like these really weird like shots where it's like black and white and choppy, and it'll just be like random shots like a building or whatever. And it happens a couple times, but I think it happens the first time here.
Yeah, you're right. But it's not just like a still shot. Sometimes like this, like you actively see you're following the camera moving through
it's like
part
jerky,
of the building.
Yeah, it's like jerky movements. And then we follow up. We you know, we're with Masako and Raya now.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. They're just kind of discussing like what they're doing there, really, and like, you know,
it's real quick.
Yeah, because then it quickly jumps back to Kondo, and they're just bucking down now.
Yeah,
like straight up, like they're just.
He seems to be giving it to her good.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like
he said, he's up today.
Yeah. they're like, you know, normally it's like the sex scene in like a horror movie, it's like one position, but they seem to be like flipping positions, and they like flip into a third position before there's yet another like black and white choppy shop. And then we see that Raya now is walking through like this wooded area. Then it cuts back to Kondo and Ray. They get dressed and talk about how their clothes are dusty and how they need to find a faucet to get the dust off their clothes. And it cuts back to Raya, who's still stumbling through the woods. And then she actually bumps into Nami, and Nami's like, well, where the fuck's, you know, she doesn't say that, but she's like, where's Masako? And she's like, oh, you know, she's taking pictures. She wanted to take pictures of the buildings. And Raya mentions how, you know, she has a bad feeling about this place and she wants to leave.
Which is understandable. I would also have a bad feeling about this place.
Yeah.
And so that, you know, there's all this, they're, like you said, they're kind of outside discussing this. And then you sort of have this wild moment where you kind of like, from inside the building, you see this hand kind of go up the side of this, of the floor or whatever, and the next thing like a guy kind of pulls himself sort of up, and he has a gag in his mouth, and he's like, it's like he's trying to reach out to them or something, but really quickly this boot just kind of comes down on his hand and crushes it, so he falls back into this pit where he's chained up. And then you see for the first time this mysterious figure who's like in, I don't know, like a black poncho with a hood.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he's almost wearing like, because I remember my stepbrother and I, we used to make a series of no budget horror movies. And he, like you said, he's kind of wearing this black poncho, but the mask, it looks similar to this thing that my stepbrother used to wear when he'd go hunting, and it's kind of like a see-through mesh like thing that he would put over his face, not only for camouflage, but like if he was like duck hunting and he was a place where there was a lot of bugs, it would keep him away, and that's what it kind of looks like.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, exactly. So you can't make out anything about who this person is.
Not at all, and it's very quick.
Yeah, and but it's just, so you're just like, because of the nature of it, you're just like, what the fuck was that? Like, because then it kind of follows back up. Oh my God.
With Ray.
Yeah, with Ray. I keep get
it together.
and she seems to have found, this is like strange to me, but she seems to have found a faucet to wash the dust off of some of her clothing.
It almost looks like it was like an emergency shower room or something.
Yeah, it looks like a chemical shower,
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and, that's exactly.
And so then Ray hears like a some sort of noise, piques her interest, and she follows it into the other room, thinking it's Kondo again fucking with her.
But it's not.
It's not. She
and this is another like what falls on her?
Well, yeah, it's like at first like she something drops in her head and it turns out to be like a maggot, and she looks up and there's just like maggots like rotting through the floor of through the ceiling,
which is like straight out of Suspiria. So that was another like
it's a cool nod, man. It's just like they're all throughout it, and and then so this she kind of bumps into like a closet or whatever, and it sort of the closet opens up. And then just out pops this gnarly looking like corpse of a woman. It's the woman from the snuff video. Yeah. And so they were thinking, they were talking about it earlier, like, what if we find a body, there it is. And this startles her backwards, and she again bumps into this wall, and then just boom, out of nowhere, this like,
I didn't do this. It was wild. And there's no way you could have ever expected this. It was one of the most creative, cool, visually stunning kill scenes that I've ever seen. And that's saying something. Do you want to describe it, or do you want me to try to describe it?
Go for it, man.
Because
it is really cool. It is really fucking cool.
Because this closet seems to the closet, like it's like a shelving unit or something, or a closet door, but it seems to like open by itself, which some more type of stuff like that starts to happen later. But like you said, the corpse of the woman from the snuff video falls out, startling her. She seems to fall back into like a chair, and then out of fucking nowhere, when I say giant, I mean giant. This giant blade emerges from the wooden floor, fucking stabs her through the chest. Yeah. Then a second one comes out, stabs her through the side, goes through her, sticks into the wall, and then even further from that, a third one protrudes from behind her. So there's like 3 different fucking blades sticking through her. It's absolutely fucking amazing, dude. It is incredible.
it's intense, man.
Yeah.
And it's just it catches you so off guard because you're just not you just don't expect like that. I mean, you expect some people to start being killed off, because it's a horror movie, but I was so surprised by the creativity of it all.
Yeah, because you're like where did that come from? Like, how did the person see there was there? How did two come up from the ground and one come up from behind? So it's just like, it was wild. You could have never saw it coming, and it was fucking incredible.
Yeah, dude.
Like the moment that kill happened, because like you said, the first part was a little slow. That moment that kill happened, I was like, God damn, I'm so glad I'm watching this movie right now.
Yeah, man. And it's just, it's one of those things, like it's cool. It's an awesome kill. And then it's like, they don't focus on it too much. They make it happen, and then they just keep the story moving from that point. You know what I mean? Right.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Because then you follow up with oh my god, dude, Nami and Rhea, and they are like kind of, they're like walking back towards their car at this point. Yeah.
Because in that brief scene earlier, they talk about heading to the car because it's getting cold.
Yeah. And so they head back there. God damn it! Who's waiting in the car though?
It's Kondo.
Motherfucking Kondo. He's back in the car. It's interesting. Yeah. Like, they show a shot of the video, like right after that kill. They show a shot of the video, the snuff film being played in the vehicle, and they show the eye again.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And so they they kind of talk about how it's going to be dark soon. And that like maybe it's
they also talk about like the authenticity about the video,
which looks authentic if you fucking ask.
And Nami also says how she thinks that someone's calling her there, and that's why she's here, because Rhea's pleading for her, like she wants to leave, you know what I mean? Which right? There's always gonna be like. So here's the thing. I'm one of those people that's always been intrigued by exploring like abandoned places. So like if I came across that, like I'd be down. That's not for everybody. So of course there's gonna be that one person that's like, dude, let's get the fuck out of here. This place is creepy.
Yeah. It's true, man. But journalistic integrity must prevail. Because
out of nowhere, Masako runs up and tells them that she found the place, like referencing like the place where the snuff film was filmed. And there's this cool shot of them like in the background by the car, and in the foreground is the killer from like the waist down.
So and so that like they are actively being watched,
Totally.
And so like they're like they are just being led into this like this trap, really. For lack of
So they leave a note. What's that?
I was gonna say they end up leaving a note on the car, and they venture back into the building.
Yeah.
Commenting on how dark it is in there, and like they have another jump scare moment, where they in this room full of TVs, broken TVs,
because they're using like Masako's using like her camera flash as like a strobe light, because it's like a super dark building. And Kondo's a little scamp, and jump scares them again.
Punk. But that's not even like the big scare in this scene, because they see something at the end of this hallway. And
what's it look like?
I mean, it just kind of looks like to me it looked like from afar, it looked like the killer from like the shot of the killer from earlier. It looked like some sort of like hooded cloak-like thing just dangling there, and it's almost like ghost-like in a way.
Okay.
But then it gets closer and closer, starts moving towards them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, boom, it's motherfucking Rhea from earlier, and she's just, obviously she's fucking dead. And it's like the body just goes like it goes all the way to the end of the hallway and like baps into the wall at the end. And that's when they realize it's their friend,
Yeah, it was on like a hook on like a pulley system or something on the ceiling,
like a fucking slab of meat.
It's a cool shot because, like you said, you just see it at the end of the hall, and then it slowly gets closer. And yeah, I didn't think that they were. I didn't think that they were going to realize their friend was dead that quick. So it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, they just like see their fucking dead friend's body hang, like you said, hanging like a piece of meat. Raya ends up throwing up. She runs off. Masako tries following her, and then like randomly a few feet ahead of them, like pieces of the ceiling start to fall to the ground. Like some of it almost falls on Masako.
Yeah.
And then Raya has run farther off as the other three are following, and she ends up in this like super dark room. Sees some sunlight sneaking in from a door that's like slightly ajar. So she ends up heading outside and mentions to herself, like as she's running, that she's going to get the police and get help, and continues to run off. So you're like, okay, like, all right, so she's going to go get some help.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully help comes soon.
Right.
Because the other three, they end up like running into like a part of the warehouse that's like there's just like a barred door or gate, blocking their way.
Yeah, it was almost like it was weird.
And Mako kind of approaches, and just like, from behind the bars, a knife comes out and slices her cheek.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck, dude? And like, obviously this causes her to like, they kind of scatter, they run. She falls into, trips a couple, running away. And she breaks part of her heel. Yeah, that's it.
On one of her shoes.
Yeah, and so like Nami and Kondo are like, they're separated basically at this point. And I mean, like that, like but there's just all these things that just keep happening that you're just like,
yeah,
they're just like, this can't be random. Like,
yeah, because Nami and Kondo, like, they run off in front of her, in front of Mako or so it's weird because they call her Mako, but her name is in the movie is credited as Masako. So anyway, like we mentioned, because she fell and like part of her heel broke, so she's trying to catch up with Kondo and Nami, but they seem to like run and fall off of like a stair set that's like missing a bunch of stairs. It's like, what the fuck? Because Masako tries to like look down and look for him and call for them and doesn't hear anything.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Like, so who knows where they went, but now she's separated from them. So you're like, oh shit, like now they're starting to split up, and this is not good. But yeah, we cut back to Rhea, and she ends up making it back to the car. She has trouble getting it to start at first, but then she ends up putting it in the park and gets the car to start. She heads back to the main gate, opens the gate, but then when she gets back into the car, she gets attacked, but it's not by the masked killer. It's just like this creepy looking guy in like a tattered, dirty shirt. He starts choking her and he starts saying some weird shit. He talks about how if I kill trespassers, I'll be freed. They promised me. And he starts like violently choking on her, talking about how killing her is going to be easy and he wants to enjoy this. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, dude, it's gnarly. I think I mean, I may be wrong, but I think that might be the dude that was like, you know,
Possibly
in the hole
that was
earlier.
gagged. Yeah.
Yeah, like
I
he's
guess I
like,
didn't. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't take too good of a look, but you're probably right.
So, you know, but anyway, like you said, he just like brutally starts choking her. This kind of cuts away from that back to back to Mako running down, you know, and she finally gets to a room where, you know, like she's able to like shut a door, you know, prop something against it, thinking like, you know, maybe this will stop the, you know, whoever's potentially chasing her. And you know, it's just desperate, man. Like you just get the sense of like all of a sudden desperation, you know, because she like falls down, she's just, you know, like hysterical crying and stuff, and which is understandable, you know.
I'm glad that they put that in there for sure, because like you said, it just seems like it's at this point where she's like accepted the fact that she's in this super dire situation, you know, and that she's probably gonna die, you know.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I don't know, it's just well done. And this kind of leads, you know, eventually like the door gets busted open, and the killer ends up getting his, like, you know, getting her, you know. And there's a series of like, it's like all shot, you see kind of like the unfolding action through the strobe light flashes of the camera, you know.
It's very disorienting.
It is, but it's also really cool. I mean, it's disorienting on purpose, but it's really effective. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Because like, it's like does he stabs her in the hand or something like that in this, or slices her hand? You know,
because she grabs the blade.
That's what it is. Okay, that's why she gets her hand sliced.
He slowly pulls it out. She looks at the damage in her hand and then faints. So you're like, well, you know, that's probably not the end of that. And then we cut back to what's happening in the car with Rhea, and this next like minute and a half, it was really hard to watch. I've said it before that I am not a fan of scenes in movies that have sexual assault in them.
It's just a gross rape scene. Like
I've said it before, where unless it's like an absolutely integral part of the plot, which it normally never is, I'm not a fan of it. For a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, no, I agree. This was one of the negative points in the movie for me. It's because it's like this like unnecessary sexual assault scene, and you know, it was like you know, it was, the dude was killing her, choking her out and stuff like that. Like that could have been enough, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
But they took it a little further than I care for.
He also he does it. There is an interesting like line of dialogue though, where while this is happening, she asks him if it's a group of people, and he replies, they are two, but two in one. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that supposed to mean?
And so, you know,
I also forgot to mention that, like, while part of this is happening, you get a shot where the gate is behind them, and the gate seems to like close and lock by itself, and you're kind of like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
And then,
you're just sort of like, again, it's like one of those things that you're just like, what is happening around them?
And even more so in this next part where you know, she's trying to fight him off. He's obviously too powerful for her. He starts choking her again, and out of nowhere, this blade like comes through, breaks one of the windows, stabs through him, and he like coughs up a bunch of blood on her, and it kills him. She like gets his limp body off of him, she starts to climb out of the car, and this is the other, like, I'm gonna let you talk about it this time, but this is the other, like, super amazing, exceptional kill in this movie. That was something that could have came out of once again, could have been in an Argento movie or a Bava movie. You know, it was, I loved it. It was so great and so unexpected.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just you know, it's like the way they shot it is really cool, because, like, you know, as she's trying to exit the vehicle, just from the darkness, you see just, like, you know, a wire hoop kind of fly out of nowhere, and next thing you know, it's around her neck, and she starts getting her body starts being lifted off the ground, and like kind of bent around the shape of the car as she's getting dragged up on top of the vehicle. And you can see the shot of the wire, you know, digging into her throat and causing bleeding, and she ends up getting pulled, like, over the top of the vehicle. She dies, but, like, you see her body just kind of slumped over onto the ground on the opposite side of the vehicle that she left. And the killer, you know, you can kind of see, again, sort of like almost from the waist down, you see a shot of him, like, next to the body, and then, like, walking off. But it's an effective kill, but it's also in a lot of ways, like, it's like a minimal. They did certain things that really make it pop, but there's, you know, they didn't go overboard with this type of kill, and okay. I think it was really well done how you know, it was kind of like a quicker thing. It wasn't necessarily, like, drawn out too much, so you get the shot, you know, of her being dragged, you get the, you know, like, you know, the shot of, like, the wire in the neck, like I said, but it's like just shots enough like to make you uncomfortable but interested, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Shots like that of, like, someone getting, like, choked by razor wire or, like, garrote wire, like, is always so gnarly to me. So it was really effective. Absolutely. Like you said, the killer, like, double checks that she's dead. And then we cut, you know, we go back to Nami, and she seems to wake up on, like, the roof of the building.
With no idea, like, no explanation as to how she got there.
Yeah, and she seems to be as confused as the viewer is. She's shot, you know, she's like, where am I? You know, she's alone. And then that mysterious man, we learn his name in this sequence. His name's Dasuki, but that mysterious man from earlier, you know, like, taps her on the shoulder. And they talk about how he says, he asks her how many, and she says, how many what? And he says, how many of you died, including him? And then it pans over and we see Kondo's decapitated head. You're like, well, fuck.
Yeah. It's funny, he, like, flicks open his like, you know, his lighter, his, like, Zippo, and, like, shines the light on, you know, in that direction. That's, you know, when you see the severed head. And it's not the first time. Like, I really, like, I like that they sort of went in parts of this movie, you know, like, they utilized the lighter, you know, as being, like, the only light source that they have. And I always kind of like that in these, like, sort of, like, dark, you know, like, haunted places, or, like, you know, in this like, thing, a derelict place while they're exploring it. It just gives a certain edge to everything, you know.
I agree.
But yeah, so, you know, she kind of, like, you know, falls to her knees, breaks down. She's like, you know, because I mean, basically, at least 2 people, you know, for sure have died, you know. And so she's
very distraught. Yes, absolutely.
You know, he kind of helps her up, and it jumps to this next scene where they're sitting on, like, a stairwell. And that's when you find, like, part of the dialogue mentions this was an old military base that he used to play in as a boy
with his brother.
With his brother, and that he's there looking for his brother.
That's right. Yeah. He also talks. He talks about like not being good at talking to people, and he mentioned something about how he grew up being behind concrete walls. Super weird.
Yes, but yeah, and so exactly, you're just like, there's something off about this guy.
Totally.
And before the conversation goes too far, he I don't know, hears something or sees something, quote unquote, and like pulls out a gun and like kind of ends up like pursuing something into the other room.
Yeah,
or down the stairwell.
And yeah. He's like, "Who are you? What are you up to?" Obviously in Japanese, but yeah.
Yeah.
He and then he like lets out like a slight like yell of pain, and she comes down to check on him, and he pulls like I don't know if it was like a piece of like a pole or a piece of like small piece of rebar or whatever it was, but he pulls this like sharp object that out of his shoulder, and tells her don't move. He heads out in the hallway and just starts firing off shots, but no one appears to be there. And then he fires another one and then runs off. And you're like, what? Like, is he seeing something like we're not seeing? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like you don't understand it. Like, you're just sort of like, is he in pursuit right now of that? Like, is he? To me, at this point in the movie, that dude's the prime suspect,
That's
because
fair.
he's just mysteriously appearing every now and then. And you're just like, who the fuck are you, man?
Good point.
Anyway, so this leaves Nami by herself once again, and she's, making her way down yet another hallway. It's dark and all that good stuff, but then she hears her friend Mako like he's like asking her for help. And then there's like this like shot like Mako's like on TV on one of the random TVs strewn throughout this building.
Yeah, it's just like in the middle of the hallway.
Yeah. And like all of a sudden her and the shot of Mako is like her face is like covered in white paint, and she's like asking Nami for help, and this basically leads Nami eventually like kind of comes to the door that she thinks Mako's behind.
Well, real quick, she also comes across like a wall of TVs.
Yeah, more TVs. Yeah,
and they pop on with the same video, and they tell her on the right at the far end of the corridor, and then they power off, and you're just kind of like confused, like like did like you're kind of confused because you're like, did Mako like hear what? Because this whole time Nami's like, where are you? Where are you? And so you're kind of like, did she hear like what Nami was saying? Like, how was she able to communicate that? So it is, yeah. But like you said, she ends up coming across the door that she believes that Mako's behind. Then it pans to the other side, and you're introduced to a really sticky situation that's set up in the other room.
Yeah, man. It's, as a viewer, it's a really tense shot, because you basically see this trap that's set up. Where the door handle that Mako is at, or that Nami is at, is like has a wire that's tied to the trigger of what appears to be a crossbow, and the crossbow's set up directly facing Mako, who's tied up against the wall.
And there's also a chair in front of the door handle too. So yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. You're like, because it has a great shot where, like I said, it pans to the other side, and you see this wire, like you said, this wire cord like attached to the door handle, and then it follows the cord for a while. It's like a pretty long shot. It follows the cord for a while, and then you see it around the handle of the crossbow, and you're like, oh shit. And this is another thing where this movie came out in '88. You got to wonder if, some of the people behind the Saw franchise, or some of like the torture porn of the early 2000s, like maybe saw this, or not. But I just feel like it's interesting.
Oh yeah,
and it really ups the stakes because there's a similar scene like this in I forget if it's in the collection or the collector, but there's like a similar scene because she obviously wants to get in there, bust the door down, and Mako has a gag in her mouth, so she can scream stop, no, don't come in all she wants, but she's not going to be able to get through to Nami. But we get a kind of a surprise type of scenario because Nami ends up, after banging on the door for a while, ends up busting through, causing the trap to go off. But the crossbow fires and the arrow, misses her by a couple inches.
Yeah.
And so as a viewer, you're like, ooh, like that's a relief, that this trap didn't work out the way it was planned. However,
that ain't the end of it, man.
Oh my! I did not see this coming either. I thought it was going to be the trap failed, and she releases her friend, but it throws you another nice little surprise here.
Yeah, because Nami trips into a different cord that then triggers a blade to come down from the ceiling and just shakunk right into the side of Mako's fucking head.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, so Mako gets the axe, and like the blood work again is just really fucking well done.
Oh my god, yeah.
And it is a really effective scene because you think that Nami's gonna rescue her, and then badoom, no.
It's so great. It's just, man, it's just a roller coaster of a scene.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you see this tense situation. You as a viewer know it's about to happen, but it subverts your expectations, and then wham, the second fucking trap comes in and she dies in a brutal way, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So
and then like inexplicably it's like somebody was firing off like Roman candles at Nami or something, and so there's just these flashes of
like sparks,
that they cause her to kind of stumble backwards, and then I can't remember if you see the killer in the doorway just yet, but there's like all of a sudden like she gets kind of backed into a wall, and these like arrows just come flying out at her, and they're like narrowly missing her, but almost like pinning her to the wall because they're so close to her frame.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
But what's cool? It's cool though, because like you said, you see the killer, but he's not holding the crossbow. It's just the killer's like standing in this doorway, and these arrows are firing off, and all this shit's going on. You're like, well, how is this happening? It's cool because the killer ends up like walking out of the door. She like is able to rip herself free from the wall, and then she kind of gets a little cocky and says, "You're never going to beat me," and then one more arrow flies through and just impales her through the leg.
Yeah, dude.
And then Mr. Timing, Dasuki runs in, pop, like fires off like another shot or two.
He's always seeing the killer. Pop.
Yeah, he like fires off like another shot or two into where the killer was, and then comes over, kind of tends to Nami, pulls the arrow out of her leg, tells her, it didn't hit bone, you're gonna be okay, asks her if she can walk, and then you see them, they're walking through like a hallway now, and sort of like before, he's using his lighter, and tells her that he knows a secret. Not only does he tell her that he knows a secret path, but that he saw the culprit and that it's a kid.
Which makes no sense. You're just like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, it's just crazy. And at one point in this scene, right after mentioning the kid, he tries to hand Nami the lighter that he's using, and it burns her hand almost because it's super hot, and she drops it. And you're just like, I mean, makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, because she also kind of like looks at it weird and like notices that, you know, it was hot to the touch for her, but not for him, and she kind of like wildly stares at him.
She's starting to question this random stranger she met in this derelict building.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's a good point. But they end up like continuing on. They head down through like a hole in the ground, and then they're walking through a tunnel. She talks about, you know, her job and how she thinks that this was a lunatic fan that's behind this. He starts to get chest pains, falls to the ground. He lights up another cigarette, and then he tells her about his nerves being fried and how his brother is the same way.
Yeah.
So it's super bizarre.
It's a weird little sequence, but I do, again, like it's to me one of the best paced moments is this tunnel scene where they're talking. When he gets the chest pains, I just love how fucking cool he seems. Not that I'm not saying that smoking's cool, kids. I'm not, but he looks so fucking cool in this, like the way he casually, like he's like, oh yeah, he's talking about these chest pains, and then he just pulls out a stove and lights it up while he's like having these heart pains or whatever. But it's just like the pace of it all. It's just slow enough to make you appreciate like the human moment between them, between these two. You know, she hands him the lighter, you know, and that's when you have the discussion about like, you know, how he doesn't feel it and shit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's a really interesting fucking, like, I don't know, cool scene. But yeah, you're right. Like, I forgot that he mentions that his brother is the same way. And, you know, it's
so like you said, you're kind of like sitting there more and more like, you know, there's more questions that are maybe like starting to form in your mind, you know, with some of the dialogue that's happened. So they end up getting up, and she mentions how, you know, she's kind of scared, but that she's happy she's not alone. And then he asks her if she knows how to use a gun. He tells her to take it, tells her that the exit is just ahead, so that he's going to go back and find his brother.
Yeah. He has this line, he's like, I'm not afraid of that brat, as he's like,
that's right,
back into the building. You know, and she gives him the lighter back, because she's, you know, close to the exit anyway, which makes sense. You know, so you see her kind of crawling out of I don't know, like a grate opening or something out of the ground, and, you know, gun in hand. You follow up with him. He's like he's in this room all of a sudden with like all these other things. There's like there's like a bottle of whiskey, like some like
a mirror.
You see like conditioner on the counter and stuff like that, and all these photos kind of along the edge of the mirror. And so it looks like, I mean, it looks like he's been living there almost, you know, in this scene, because there's all this stuff, and then he starts putting white paint on his cheeks, and you're just like, oh shit, dude, it's the fucking white paint that was on Mako's face. Like, what the fuck? You know, and so you kind of, and then you kind of slowly follow Nami as she like limps back to the car through like this foggy, you know, grassy kind
of almost like a dream. It's almost like a dream like scene, you know.
Yeah. But it quickly becomes a nightmare though. She like, you know, she stumbles upon Rhea's body.
Yes.
And that's when, you know, she realizes, like, you know, and she has this great, like, I think it like was a really great scene by the actress where
totally,
you know, she was like, you know, like, you asked to go home, like, you wanted to get out of here, this is my fault. And she starts crying over her friend's, you know, body, taking like absorbing the blame for her death, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid and effective monologue. I agree.
Yeah,
You know,
it's cool, and that's why one of those things I really appreciate about this movie is that they have those moments, those like, like really kind of like in this weird way attach you to these characters.
Totally.
And,
Yeah.
and so subsequently the killer seems to like come basically like the way that Nami just came, and she sees him like the killer in time just to like get up and hide behind the vehicle.
Yeah, she hides behind like the wheel well to where she's not in view.
Yeah, and so the killer basically comes up, and obviously the body of the other guy's still in the vehicle also, and the killer just walks up and like chains up both the bodies and just starts dragging them off, which is, you're just like, what's he gonna do with the bodies now?
Well, yeah, he's probably obviously he wants to move them so they're not just out in plain sight.
And so but there's like then you have this like moment with Nami, right? Like
totally,
you're almost out of it, you know what I mean? And she knows that. She goes up to the gate and opens the gate and then turns around and closes it.
Oh, man.
And that's when you're just like, oh shit, man, she ain't fucking around anymore. Like,
not at all.
Because the shots, and this is kind of all cut with these shots of the killer, like I said, dragging the bodies away, and you get these great like shots of the bodies being dragged over the grass, and it's just kind of slow paced a little bit. I don't know, it just gets under your skin a bit. And so Nami turns around, has a moment in the vehicle, finishes off this like can of iced coffee from earlier, and like
I couldn't tell. Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was beer or coffee or what it was.
Earlier in the movie they mentioned that like when Kondo, I think, is drinking out of it, it's like they mentioned this coffee. So that's the only way I knew that. Yeah, I was just like, it's random. But anyway, so Nami grabs a flashlight out of there that works and still has the gun, and decides to follow the killer back inside. She
also like grabs a hair tie and ties her hair up, and usually when a woman does that, it's like she means business.
It's not
so
fucking around.
Yeah, but it was such a surprise. like you said, when I was watching the movie and she opens the gate and then closes it again, I paused it to see how much time was left, and I was like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't the end just yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
but yeah, she ends up heading back to in the direction of the killer, heads back into that tunnel, comes up through the way that she left, and you start to hear these like you at first I thought it was a voiceover, but we quickly learned that it's not. But I thought it was like a voiceover of Dasuki had briefly mentioned earlier that his brother's name is Hideki, so we get this voiceover of Hideki's mom, which I thought was a voiceover. But anyway, so she ends up going into this room and closing the door behind her, and then we see it's that room that Dasuki was in earlier. There's a bed, there's a fridge, there's like multiple TVs with broadcasts, like tapings of her broadcast playing on them.
Yeah.
She comes across a picture of a little boy with his mom, and there's like a bunch of pins poked through the mom.
Yeah, it's creepy, man. Because
mm-hmm.
and there's like all these monitors that are playing, and I couldn't tell if it looked like they were playing clips perhaps of Nami.
They were. That's what I'm saying. It was like clips of like her broadcasts or something.
Okay, yeah. It's so it's getting very clear here that somebody definitely lured her here. You know what I mean, in particular, it wasn't just about all of them; it was about her.
Absolutely. And then out of nowhere, like this, tape recorder pops on, and it's like more of Hideki's mom, and then it stops, and Nami like seems to think that that this person thinks that she's his mom.
Yeah.
She peers out through the door, sees the killer like dragging another body, and there's this cool shot where the killer drags the body and sets it down, and then reaches down for the hand and pulls out like it's like the hand is like bisected from the body.
Yeah.
But then this is when the movie starts to take a turn where she hears the person, and it sounds like Dasuki's voice, but the person's talking to themselves and is using two different voices. The killer falls to the ground and clutches its chest, kind of like he was doing earlier, and then eyes Nami in the room, and so you're like, oh shit, like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, dude. It's, and like some of the random dialogue that's happening between these two voices is like, one of them being like, like, why did you let her escape? And then the answer being like, oh, it was a great, like, it was like, isn't killing 5 in one day enough for you? And so like, whatever this is, the fucking bloodthirsty, man.
Yeah, and the one voice is kind of more like higher pitched. It's kind of like
it's like a kid.
Yeah.
That fucking brat. But yeah, you're right. So the killer then like it sees Nami and goes into the room that she's in, shutting the door behind it.
Uh-huh.
And Nami trying to hide behind like a shelf, and then like accidentally trips the cord and like cuts the power to the TV. So clearly the killer knows that Nami's in there. Mm-hmm. But then, like casual like a motherfucker, the killer just starts, like leans against the wall, crosses his arms, and starts like starts saying like why did you come back, like you should have left, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's at this point, without even revealing the face, who is under there. Yeah,
because he says like, I told you to leave.
Yeah.
And asks her if her research is that important. She calls him a psycho and tells him to stop acting like he's two people. Tells him to take off his mask, and he does. And he's got, like you said, he's got some like weird, like it almost looks kind of like tribal, like white face. There's like 3 white stripes on each side of his cheek. She tells him she wants to go to the police or else she'll shoot him. And he seems to kind of like cooperate. Like he leaves the room before her and she starts following. He tells her that it's best to shoot him now and that he doesn't care what happens because he's fed up with it all.
Yeah.
He talks about how he's like lived alone for so long and never having friends. It's like,
it's wild. Like the actor just looks, I mean, like one of the best things about this scene is like he just has like this expressionless look on his face, and he just like really to me just looks dead inside.
Yeah,
like there's like his eyes are vacant and just like and it just leads right into what he's saying. It's like kill me now, get it over with, I'm fed up with this anyway, and so you're just like, fuck, dude, like it just really hit me, like whoever, like,
there's some good performances for sure.
Yeah, dude, it was so surprising. I'm so but this Nami doesn't shoot him,
right?
She kind of tries to keep this dialogue going, but then like all of a sudden, sort of like an earlier with those like sparkler flashes or whatever, like parts of the building just start blowing up, and catching fire. Yeah,
almost like that. It's like flames are like emitting.
But it happens like it's so random, and then it happens like all throughout this room, and it causes Nami to like get disoriented and to lose balance, and then at one point gets knocked over, and she like drops the gun, and and then like water starts falling. Like the sprinkler system somehow still works in this building or something. Like, that's what it looked like.
Sparks are like continuing to like emit. He tells her to run, and you can see that like the chest pains are starting to get worse and worse. She tries to run off, but it seems like flames are like impeding her path and causing fires. So she actually heads back to Dasuki, and he's telling Hideki to stop it. He rises to his feet, begging her to shoot him, and so she does shoot him. There's like a good like blood splatter. She ends up kneeling down next to him, and he tells her to shoot him one more time to finish him off. Yeah. She refuses, and then, oh man.
That's what I mean, where it's like you really thought you had the direction of this movie up until this point, up until this moment right fucking here, where she kneels right next to him, and he calls her an idiot. And then all of a sudden his chest, like a fucking xenomorph's trying to come out of it or something, starts like, popping outward. And then all of a sudden, like, bah, this like, big burst of like blood comes out, and then this like, oh my god, dude, this like he's just like profusely bleeding out of his chest as something slowly popping out, and it's this like weird, like bloody, muscular looking, veiny sack of blood that like kind of slowly comes oozing out of his fucking chest, and it looks alive because of the way it's crawling slowly away from him.
It's and so bizarre.
It's so bizarre, dude. But and he's like, no, Hideki, so he's talking to it, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And then even further, like the sack starts pulsating, and then out comes this bloodied fetus.
Yeah.
And
it's also like cooing like a child, dude.
Oh my god, dude, it's so fucking wild, man.
It is. Yeah, just like you said, it starts growing in size, and it does. It looks like, oh man, it is so wild.
Yeah, like I was just not prepared for it. I was just like, what the fuck? And Dasuki's sitting there being like, in his like dying breaths, like, Hideki, come back. Like he want like I don't even know. Like they have this like weird symbiotic thing going on. You know what I mean? Like, because that's right. Dasuki like mentions like no, you'll die, like being exposed or whatever. Oh my god, it's so fucking wild.
So yeah, she ends up heading back into like their bunker room. She locks the door, but then this like hole in the wall starts to burn.
Yeah, it's a cool shot.
It is a cool shot, and then it cuts back to more of these like black and white choppy sequences. And then this like tendril ends up descending, wraps around her neck. She looks up, and on the ceiling is like the weird like fetus, like bloody, like I don't even know how to describe it. It's this tendril's choking her. Then Dasuki runs in, grabs it, like shoves it back inside his chest, freeing the tendril's grip. He tells her that it's okay and it'll all be over soon, and then he stabs himself like in the chest with something.
Oh my god, dude, it's fucking insane. Like, cause he like even falls on it or whatever, right?
Yeah, I don't really know what it was, but yeah, he like falls on it where Hideki would be, like stabbing him. He falls onto the ground and then fucking like bursts into flames. Dude. And burns to a fucking crisp.
Yeah. Oh man.
And at this, as if everything that already happened like wasn't traumatizing enough. Like you can tell that Nami is like not okay. And once again, you think it's like over there, but she starts to leave, and out of fucking nowhere, the burnt, charred body just jumps up and starts attacking her again.
Dude, it was such a surprise, such a good surprise. Like it got me. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And so like, not only does it attack her, but you're just like, how the fuck is it still functioning?
Yeah.
And so they have a struggle, and it, eventually, like you think Nami's gonna get the axe at this point because it looks like it's getting the upper hand, but then Nami finds like a piece of glass or something, some shard on the ground, like stabs the thing, and like it causes the charred body to fling backward out of this window. And this was like this was some really cool action, if you ask me, because like it flings out the window and you're just like, okay, as a viewer you're like nothing has killed this thing so far. It was a charred fucking body. And so I thought, as Nami slowly kind of like looks out the window, you're gonna see that body gone, but what you see is like the body, on impact, some of it just turned to dust, you know what I mean? And so like you're like, it leads you to believe like, okay, it's fucking over now.
Because it's like in pieces. Yeah. So there's like a head, a hand, like a leg.
But there's just no way it can come back from that, right? Like it's, and it was epic.
Then we get this weird shot where like it was epic. It was awesome because like we said, when the charred body was attacking it, it has this like quick shot of his chest, and it looks like Hideki's eye or something is like looking out at her through a slit, and that's what she stabs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this like weird like slow motion type shot where she is walking through the building, and it almost looks like sparkles or glitter is like falling from the ceiling.
Yeah.
She picks up the flashlight. She like rips off like charred fingerprints from her neck, and then it cuts to, presumably a couple days later, she's waking up in a hospital bed, and what you from the conversation you're led to believe this is a policeman, because he talks about how they couldn't identify the charred body and that they also didn't find anything. The Hideki that she described, he talks about how it's something that couldn't exist. And that he's going to remove it from the records.
Yeah, he's basically just like, don't, like, what you've said doesn't make any sense. So don't tell anybody that, and like we're gonna not report that part of it. And like
right.
Complete victim denial, which whatever. And then he tells her like, get better and get back to work. You're just like, fuck, dude. And presumably that's kind of what happens. So the next shot is kind of back at the studio, on the set of Nami's Late Night, and you kind of think like, all right, everything's sort of going back to normal for her, I guess. It's like she wraps up an episode, goes
she seems to be walking with a cane, so there's some after effects.
Oh, for sure. There's like she goes to like wardrobe or something, or other, and has a shot where she like checking her herself in the mirror for a moment. Mm-hmm. Then she what is it, like gets like oh yeah, that's right, the lighter, dude. So it's like somebody brings her like a gift, like something wrapped up.
Yeah. One of her colleagues is like, hey, somebody left this for you, and it's like an object wrapped in white cloth, and she opens it, and you just said what it was, but she opens it, and it's fucking Dasuki's lighter.
Yeah, dude.
That fucking amazing music kicks in again. And then you just get one hell of a fucking wild ass shock ending,
dude. Like you had shock on shock on shock in this, like in this final part of the movie, but this scene like catches you so far off guard. Like the lighter drops, then like all of a sudden Nami like reaches up to her throat, like something's like bothering her on her throat, and then next thing you know, she's like falling over backwards. There's like this weird like explosion or something that kind of happens from her tummy, and like all of a sudden like blood and stuff starts coming out, and then emerging from inside of her pops out fucking disgusting bloody fetus Hideki. and it looked like
Mommy.
oh my god, dude. It was such a gnarly way to just, and then it just boom goes to credit. It goes to like this, like fades into like this, like, you know, negative sort of looking shot, like you saw sort of sprinkled throughout, and then credits, and you're just like, what the fuck just happened, man? Like, I was not expecting that. Oh man.
I wasn't expecting any, you know, like I said, I was expecting maybe a C+, B- rate, you know, low budget 80s horror movie. Judging by the after looking at it some more, but like the image on Shudder, like I didn't think it was going to be a Japanese movie, but like, dude, this movie was such a nice fucking surprise.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be watching it again. It's definitely a movie that I'm gonna like, you know, encourage other people to see.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, like, particularly because it's a great example, like we've been talking about throughout this whole episode. It's a great example of like, you know, of the influence that other horror directors and other visionaries in the genre have on other people, you know, because there's so many, like, you know, homages, there's so many things that are like, you know, you can be pulled, you know, or directly tied to you know, like particularly Italian horror movies. And so, dude, yeah, it's definitely going to be like, you know, a rewatcher, you know, for sure. It caught me off guard. I thought this movie was going to be trash. And and this movie was just, it just subverted expectations so much. Like, yeah, I can't recommend it enough if people haven't seen it, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't think many people have.
No.
Yeah, dude. What do you give it? What's your rating?
Honestly, I mean, like, this movie, I would say it's, man, like I thought I was gonna give it like a low, like, you know, again, I thought it was gonna be like it was gonna be trash, but I would give it like a fucking 8 out of 10. You know, bloody fetuses from your chest.
Okay.
You know, 8 out of 10. Yeah, it's just it was such a, it was awesome.
Yeah.
What about you?
I was gonna give it an 8 too. I give it 8 out of 10. I'm feeling up today's. Like what a I still was loud about like what a way to like tell, like what a fucking ridiculous like pickup line, like, you know, or way to explain that you're horny. I'm feeling up today. Dude, it was hilarious. Yeah, dude, it's such a great. I recommend this movie to anybody and everybody.
Absolutely, man.
It was such a like you said, I thought it was going to be trash, and it turned out to be treasure. So,
dude, 100. Yeah, I loved it. Evil Dead Trap, again, from 1988. So, you know, it kind of fits right into that, you know, some of those prime kind of years of horror in general. And so
totally,
you know, and I mean, I'm kind of intrigued to see some of the sequels, just to see like if they how long does this Hideki you know, survive, or is that the villain throughout the sequels, you know, like, or if it's like some other weird story. I don't know. It's just, I mean, because of the ending, because of that just shock surprise ending, you're just like, where the fuck does it go from here?
That's true.
Hell yeah. Well,
I mean, so have you seen the movie Terrifier?
I don't think so.
Oh my god!
I know the sequel's about to come out, right?
So I'm so fucking pumped because the sequel is coming out on a horror service that I need, that's like kind of new, called Screambox. Okay, but I just found out like a day or two ago that it's going to be releasing in it's only like 3 days in early October. It's going to be releasing in like 700 different theaters across the U.S. and just so happens it's going to be playing in Spokane, and I can't. I'm definitely gonna go.
Dope, dude.
Yeah, it is such a. It's a. The first one was super gory, super brutal, and apparently this one's supposed to be even gnarlier. So I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Man. And you know, you mentioned that you're also about to go see Barbarian.
Yeah, I'm gonna see that on Saturday. I wanted to see it last weekend, but you know I was in town for the reunion weekend, so I'm gonna see Barbarian. I still want to see Pearl, and then next weekend, Don't Worry, Darling, comes out, and I've been waiting for that for months.
Yeah.
So there's just so much good shit coming out soon, and then Smile comes out at the end of the month. If you haven't heard about that, go watch the trailer. And then obviously next month, you know, Halloween Ends. So
that's the big one, man.
Yeah,
I
there's a lot of
cannot fucking wait for Halloween Ends, man.
Right. But yeah, I'll let you know how Barbarian is because it's, you know, it's such a vague, you know, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, you'll have to give us your hot take on the next episode.
Totally.
Hell yeah. Well, we got another movie in the pipeline for the next episode.
Yes.
You know, and we'll keep churning them out. You know, WacArnold's Brothers is a weekly podcast, so keep following every week for that. In terms of Old Heart Radio, I'm going to be converting some of the others to every couple of weeks we'll have a new episode, but this one will stay as a staple of your weekly agenda. Deer hot dogs and corn dogs alike.
Okay.
Yeah, I like doing this one weekly. The other ones are good for sort of spreading out, I think, a little bit more, especially because we have just so many different podcasts now that we got to go through. So
yeah, that is true.
You know, we got WacArnold's Brothers, we got Under Further Review, we've got Matinee Edition about to come back, and we have, you know, all the stuff coming out from the Mold Brain Radio boys. You know, so it's just, you know, a good spread. So
yeah, didn't they this last weekend they were like explaining how for like each album there's like 3 episodes, like there's like an episode like before the review, and then they do the review, and then they do like another one after. So it's kind of like,
yeah, we're still trying to figure out like how to work all 3 of things that they record in the pipeline.
I feel like it would just make more sense to put them all together, but what do I know?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those like being kind of like this like rotating, you know, podcast radio station kind of esque thing. You have to rotate like how you post and play things, and though I don't want to, I love their Steam. I'm trying to figure that out still. So, you know. Yeah,
there's gonna be some growing pains with new stuff.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think what they're doing is a good, you know, just the same as like I really thought that the idea for Under Further Review, you know, was cool. You know, I like what their idea. So
yeah, well, and all 3 of them are just such lively fucking people that they make for really good banter between the 3 of them. So, you know, check that shit out. And episode 4 just posted on that one, so we'll keep that moving. But as always, just thank you for listening. Follow along, David. Plug your contest one more time at the end of the podcast here. Faces of Horror.
Yep. Go to my Instagram, FitzyD27. The link's in the bio. It's free to vote daily. There's 6 more days in the second round, and the top 15 in each group make the cut. So please go vote. Tell your friends to go vote. You know, I would appreciate nothing more.
Do it. And on that note, we'll leave episode 61 right here for you. 62's right around the corner. Never fear. All right. Well, you everybody listening, have a good fucking rest of the day or night, wherever you're at in it. We'll make sure to catch you on the next one.
Yes.
Uh-huh.